Hello and welcome to Soft Serve. My name is Mads Williams and I am a guide to female sensual energy. We're back, baby. So I missed a week and I have to say, I'm so proud of myself. There's a lot in human design where you can look into whether you're a consistent person or you're slightly more inconsistent. And we've really set up our modern world to be goal orientated and disciplined and commitment focused, which are all beautiful things. They all have the essence of beauty if you use them in alignment, if you use them in the way they're intended to. But for so long, we have operated on autopilot rather than feeling into what's actually correct. And so last week, I knew I was in a deep process. I was in the whirlwind of feelings and Mercury retrograde. And honestly, something was still evolving, it was still revealing itself to me. And so I took the week off as a gift to life, as a gift to that process, as a gift to myself rather than trying to push through or because I said I would or I have to. And in that, what I did is offer myself a lot of safety and a lot of protection because it meant I wasn't showing up in a space of, well, the raw wound. I'm so here for openness and telling you all my secrets and being deeply in a place of vulnerability. But unprocessed vulnerability is actually just leaky energy and it's really unsafe for everyone, including the person, but also the listener or the person that energy is coming in. And so it was awesome. I loved last week. And I think there's this thing I mention regularly about when we need to do things like that for ourselves, we get to, when we are truly living in according to our soul and our intuition, we get to trust that we are actioning what we need. And it's the voice of self-sabotage or fear, really, which is sabotage, that can try and block us from being seen or being exposed or getting hurt. That protective voice is one I always like to check in with. Am I sabotaging here, or is this actually the protective mechanism by not doing it? So once we can start having those conversations, then not only are we restoring trust to ourselves, but we're also then creating a life that has much more aligned flow and getting out of the old paradigm of, well, I said I would, so I have to. So that's a little recap on last week. But this week, I really wanted to talk about the topic of handling. Handling. Can they handle you? Are you too much? How did they handle that? Oh, they don't know how to handle me. I don't know. Maybe you didn't grow up with this language, but I've been noticing it in my adult friendships lately, how we might talk about the way our family used to speak on us or our romantic partnerships. And I had this really beautiful experience where I was like bringing all my stuff to somebody. And I really like to think that because I am deeply addicted to this thing called life and self development and moving through the niggles, that I don't bring things anymore that are unprocessed. I've spent time with them. I try not to react anymore. I try to like notice what's happening in my body and then kind of sit with it or be with it. And so then when I'm in conversation or dialogue around something that's serious to me, that I've actually felt what I want to say and how I want to say it. And then, of course, that shifts and changes depending on what happens in the present because we can't be in control of what someone else says or someone else thinks or where, the curveballs that come. But at least I'm really clear on my feelings of things. And so, what all that kind of introspection has done, it means that even when I am reactive, it's almost like there are two brains at once. There's the brain that I call her like the angry girlfriend that just wants to fucking explode, or the like toddler in me that has a tantrum because I'm not getting what I want. So she's very present and she needs to take a breath. But then there's also this part of me that is almost bird's eye viewing and can understand what's at play and what's at play for the other person and how do I actually want to react? And so there can be this moment where instead of just blowing like I used to, I'm kind of just in a slightly not shut down state, but pending it feels like a pending, like a processing, I'll know how to be with this in a beat, but I'm no longer rushing like I used to or reacting like I used to. So that's been really cool to watch. But in that, in wanting to have types of relationships where I'm really actively owning my shit and knowing what it is for me that has caused the discomfort and bringing that to the table and being like, hey, so since we last spoke, this and this and this has happened. And also I saw this beautiful man speaking about how, like, some of the really simplistic things to bring to a relationship. And he was talking about how at times we've like over therapized relationships to the point where there's no play and no fun. And I think that's really important because I could absolutely be guilty of being in conversation all the time and dissecting and improving. But there's a balance, right? When something's really fucking kicking up in your system, it's because it is an old trigger. It's an old story. And if you're working with your triggers and you're working with your life, usually you can ride the wave of momentum to help clear it out or at least minimize it. Every time you give your trigger a lot of love and attention, you are like dusting off the cobwebs, like making it smaller and smaller and smaller. It's almost like a melting iceberg. The more heat and love and attention you give to it and you say, I see you, I love you, I validate you, come here, the more it can melt and melt and melt away. So there's that dance of, okay, I'm not going to get caught in this whole web of I want to be therapizing my whole dynamic. But when something's present, I think it's really important to bring it to the person that you're in dialogue with or in relationship with. So I've been really flexing that and practicing that. And also because I'm at a point with my sexuality work where I've just like de-armored so much of my stuff or my protective mechanisms, or how do I want to say that? Like, it's so obvious to me now when I'm not in my truth in the way that is how I want to be living, that it's so fucking uncomfortable that I would rather have the uncomfortable conversation in the attempt to restore some balance back to me being myself, to feeling free in my expression of self. So that's actually another big reason for bringing stuff up. The mental gymnastics is no longer appealing to me. And I've spoken to friends about this before, this idea that it's usually not appealing to any of us. We can get a bit addicted to the drama of it, or the loop of it can become embedded and, almost like the default setting in the brain. But often we hate maybes, we hate uncertainty. So we would rather rush to a no and shut it all down because we feel safer that way than having this open void of possibility. But what's been really special about this kind of growth edge is that I know all the ways I try and protect myself. I know all the ways I try and shut things really quickly so that I'm in control again, or even though it hurts, it's an ending, so I'm good. I don't have to put any more effort there. And so I've been really intentionally trying to soften and still bring my truth and knowing that things might end, but not leading the witness, not hoping that we get there, not steering the ship towards a full stop. And then in that, trusting that what is supposed to happen is supposed to happen. And I was thinking about this year and my experience with intimacy. And there was a point when I started seeing someone fairly early-ish in the year. And I remember after our first encounter, I said something like, just so you know, that trope around bachelors and not wanting to be tied down, that's kind of me. And I went away from the situation thinking, what the fuck? Like, I haven't been actively working on love for that still to be my story, but it was. It was like I'd accidentally confessed the truth that I wasn't prepared to look at. And that is that kind of control aspect. That is that pain part of me, that's that part of me that didn't think I was lovable because of the, too much narrative. Can you handle her? Oh, in relationships, she becomes this monster. All the unnecessary stuff, my baggage, my personal baggage, yours might sound really different, but still, some type of way that you exposing yourself is not going to be okay. It's not going to be accepted. It's not going to be chosen. It's not going to be celebrated, loved, wanted, whatever. And so I was still totally in this like protective mode. And I've been thinking about how, yes, my heart has absolutely been stamped on a little bit in a way that I sign up for because I don't have any interest in half-assing my life and the way I throw myself into things. But in that, even in that pain, I have stamped out that narrative of bachelor. I'm further along and closer to being a match with the person that I wanted to be at the beginning of the year, but I wasn't. I wanted to be open to love, but I was so scared of it. Whereas now, even though my chest hurts and I have been in it, I am way more of a match for the lifestyle, the person, the relationship, my soul, my heart, my being craves. So that's why I love being all in. It's never wasted when you see everything as an opportunity. It's never wasted when you are showing up for your side of the bargain. And actually, in the showing up for your side, in my experience, has been anything but selfish because the more I understand my needs and can communicate them and can self-regulate based on what's mine, the less expectation I have on the other person. So the more openness I can actually give to them for them to reveal to me who they are. And that doesn't mean I'm not disappointed if they fall short of what I feel I need, but it doesn't feel personal. It just feels inevitable that it's a misalignment, it's a mismatch. So the self-work is just like a really beautiful gift to everyone, but most importantly to yourself. But with this concept of handling, it's already so negative. Like either you're this delicate flower that's going to break, or you're this hot headed pixie that's going to explode, or whatever. It implies that people need to tiptoe around you or be different around you or watch out for you rather than you just being allowed to be free and big and messy and ugly and beautiful and loving or whatever. And so in my recent dealings with matters of the heart, I've been seeing this person who, the best way I can describe it is that hears me and sees me. And in that, I realized, oh, handling needs to be put in the fucking bin as a concept. We are not these big monsters. We are not these big villains. We are deeply passionate, gorgeous, cyclical, emotional women. That is a gift. And actually, when you are with someone who hears you, you no longer are made to feel like you need to be handled, but instead, like it is safe and acceptable and okay to be all that you are. And that's my biggest passion in life, that we all have access to that feeling. And so the more you surround yourself with people who hear you over who make you feel like you need to be handled, the more flex you have to actually embody who you came to be. The more you then are downstream of your intuitive gifts, of your essence, of your connection to creativity and magic and like all the stuff you see in gorgeous little kids, like that's all there waiting for you to literally explode upon the world, like putting all your paint on this huge canvas of life. That's what happens the more you are seen, known, heard, and loved. So, this episode is a love letter to the too much girls, or even not, they're not enough. Either way, it's the parts of us that are unlovable. It is the parts of us that we've felt like haven't been allowed to be represented. And so, take a look around. Feel into your words, feel into the way you describe your relationships. Are you surrounding yourself with people who allow you to be raw and messy, but also the best parts of yourself? Or are you currently suppressing because there's too much chatter about all the ways you're wrong or bad? Even I used to get told all the time, like, you'd eat him alive, which, let's be real, I so would with a lot of men. But that at least I can now reclaim from a really fun, powerful, sexy place, as opposed to what it used to feel like, which was the witch wound, which was almost like a dragon where I'm going to blow out a breath and burn you to the ground with flames, or have one opinion that's too strong and you'll just fall over like a leaf. I think there's nothing more dangerous to a strong and powerful woman than a soft, weak man. And there's so much there about men needing support and women needing support, and kind of just where we've all fucked it, in my beautiful, humble opinion. And it's one of the things I feel quite passionate about continuing studying, to shed some light on where we can have beautiful men stepping up in this crossover to this like new way of living we're going to be moving towards. But I'm sure that will come in time if it's supposed to. But when I was doing some digging, I realized that one of the shadows I'd put to the side was neediness. And I have seen footage of myself as a kid, which is so special because I have some fleeting memories of it. But to actually see it in action alongside that memory has linked something so strong. But I was this deeply cuddly koala bear-esque type of kid. And that got stamped out of me so quickly. And the way that I used to be referred to in my family was the ice queen, which is fucking insane to me. But I think what happened is that I can be disinterested in people if we are doing surface level, or if they're not my people, or if I don't know them, or if I literally can't be asked. I love people, but I don't always have capacity for people. And that's probably, I like her. I like the discerning part of me that is happy to be proved wrong. But I often say that I am guilty until proven innocent. And I think what else happened when I was a kid was that part of me that really needs to feel safe about, do I know what I'm doing? I think that when I didn't, I would just shut down. And so I would put a wall up. So that ice cream label was particular around, well, they would have been boys at the time, was very much my insecurity of, well, I don't know how to do that, or it doesn't feel safe, or I don't want to do that with someone who doesn't feel safe. Either way, I got this label of, I guess, a bit isolated and cold and not how I feel myself to be at all. And so then it felt really shadowy to show people my needs and how much I do want to be in deeply passionate relationships where I just get to throw my whole body, being, and heart around somebody, and how tactile I actually am, and that softness that has been there the whole time, but this work has allowed me to access. And it got me thinking that we're really only needy when our needs aren't being met. And I know that as someone who is deeply, fiercely independent, and I love my alone time. But when I don't feel like there's clarity or safety, or if there's a gap between what I would like my dynamics to be and what they're falling short of, that's when my neediness comes up. Or even things like the too hot to handle, too big. Well, that need to debunk that is really big. For me to be able to move into the types of relationships I want, I need to get rid of that. So actually, the neediness that's kind of come out of me recently has been a really beautiful progression towards getting answers and clarity that can literally press eject on old stories that don't need to be here. So when we see our triggers come up, and instead of diving deep into them and losing all control and them being in charge, if we can be the custodian of the trigger and work out what it's actually trying to reveal, then we can take it to the person or the situation. Then I can put words to, hey, this is what's happening for me. What's happening for you? I then have actual evidence that's not linked to a past experience or a past expectation of what's happened in my family life or my past relationships. And so it inevitably becomes healing. You might find, if you're still really deeply in the pattern, that you might bring it to someone and actually the response you get is still really connected to the past. And that's okay too. It's not that it will be like that forever. It's just that there's more learning and work to be done. I've talked a lot about my rejection wound that was absolutely on loop for 4 fucking years. And it's only been in the last 6 months where I'm like, oh, that's not driving the ship anymore. That's not why things are misaligned. There is much more at play. And perhaps it was never really what was driving the ship. It's just how my system recognized it. But either way, it's like, okay, we are clearing, 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 because it's really my belief that we are vessels to be used by spirit, to be used to help, to be of service. And so if we're stuck on all the human bullshit, then we're wasting our vessel. We're wasting our time to contribute. And I don't mean that to panic or we're running out of time or any of that fear mongering bullshit. I just mean how exciting when we get to take agency over why we're actually here and what we might actually be able to do with our lives when we start taking some accountability for the patterns moving through us and how they're revealing themselves in our day-to-day. So all this to say is that I've had a week. I feel back. I feel like I've been able to see the bigger picture of what's kind of at play, even though I have had ouch, stingy moments. But I'm really grateful for them because they've really cleared out some old shit that I just didn't need to hang on to anymore. And I'm at that point, when you have when you're really angry or you're really sad or you're really in your pity party, and I'm all about really feeling that. But it gets to might be an hour of the day or it might get to 3 days later or whatever it is. And you realize, ooh, I'm actually really consciously choosing to stay in this now. Happens to me so much where I'm like, oh, okay, now I have enough clarity to see how this might have supported me or what I might supposed to be doing instead. So me choosing to stay sad is actually a choice. And so when I get to that point, I'm like, okay, it's time to put it down. And so I'm at that point with some of these narratives that I felt I inherited, like the too much to handle one, where actually the universe has handed me some really fucking beautiful healing relationships in the form of teachers and friends and lovers. And if I keep plugging into my system that I am too big and too much and never going to find love or be chosen or any of that bullshit language, I am actively picking that up, pressing play on the suffering and creating an outcome in a future that is just not mine. So I really, 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 really hope that even just starting to have conversations like this, you start picking up when you are in control or when you're actively wallowing in a sentiment or sentence or narrative that's no longer yours, and you'll know the difference. I had a friend message me a couple of weeks ago and say, it's really interesting how when we're in relationships, we always make the other person's behavior mean something about us. Like, oh, because they're doing this, it means this about me. Because they're not calling me, it means I'm too much. Because whatever, I must not be lovable. But actually, we I guess it's because we don't have the information often that we don't imply or suggest or assume it's, oh, that's just their stuff. That's all about them. And then in lifing and things unfolding and revealing themselves to me, this week, when I had that conversation with my friend, I was able to say, I totally hear you. I can hear that now. I couldn't hear that last time because when you said that, my critic internally went, no, that's not true. It's because I'm ABC. Can't hear that. I'm wrong. I'm bad. I'm the problem. Whereas when you've actually integrated or embodied it, right? That's all the jargon. But when something has clicked and shifted and changed in your system beyond a brain thing, you can think yourself into or will yourself into change, but it's not until it clicks and then you almost didn't do anything. You just in the living and showing up and embodying the version of you want to be and saying the things you want to say and therefore getting the information that you need to support you in all of that. Something clicks and then you just quite literally are a different version of yourself. You're a version of yourself that sees a different perspective, sees a different reality, sees a different truth. So then now when I have that conversation, I'm like, "Oh, fuck. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's not about me." Like, I'm sure there are things that have contributed where I'm not somebody they are prioritizing because I'm not their alignment. So that doesn't take that away from not being true, but it doesn't make me the villain. It doesn't make me the monster or the one that's never going to be good enough for someone. It's just about two different people's journeys playing out alongside themselves. But the reason I share that is that that's why we do this work, so that we can separate our stuff from the other. Even if you're fucking married to this person, it's so important to be able to separate our stuff from the other. It is a gift to everyone. So thank you for being here. I have got the baby tee tops on pre-sale. So if you are wanting a little soft serve deliciousness to wear, there's Too Hot for Hinge, Don't Forget to Make Out, and the classic soft serve logo tees. So they are online. And my online portal will be beginning on the 8th of September. For July, you can sign up to a 6-month payment plan. So that will be open for another couple of weeks. Please get in contact if you need to chat about anything in relation to that. But as always, I am really grateful that you're here. Thank you for being patient with me, taking the week off. I really hope it gives you permission to look at when you need to do that for yourself and prioritize your own needs. And don't forget that you are not too much. You are just perfect. And when you are able to reflect on what your needs are and what your expectations are and what you desire and all those good, juicy things and share it, well, you're just moving towards much more of an aligned, beautiful lifestyle and way of being. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I will talk to you soon and sending huge, huge, huge love. Bye.